And a very pleasant good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Morning Exiles on this frosty, chilly All Saints Day for all of you Catholics, for all of you Catholics, for all of you Episcopalians, for all of you Russian Orthodox, for all you Greek Orthodox. It's a holy day of obligation. Why aren't you in church?
Wow.
Sorry.
A nice little trip first thing in the morning, a guilt trip.
Sorry, my latent Catholicism just crept right in on me there.
Did you enjoy Halloween? What kind of kid traffic did you have?
Our kid traffic was down. Now, I will say the kids that showed up had better costumes than last year. We had one whole family dressed like the Wizard of Oz.
Oh, nice.
Dad was the Tin Man, and Mom was the Cowardly Lion, and one of the older kids was Glenda. And the second older kid was the Wicked Witch, and the littlest daughter, she was about 2, was in a wagon, and she had on the gingham dress and the pigtails, and she had Toto in her basket. She had a little bitty stuffed dog.
Nice.
And we had this kid. This kid had a full-size Tyrannosaurus Rex costume.
Inflatable?
Yeah.
That's the thing this year. We had a giraffe come to our door last night in an inflatable costume.
He was worried about dragging his tail because there was still some, drainage in the street and all that. But we had maybe 24, 25 kids. They came in groups of 4 and 5. But I think the cold weather shut down most of them by about 7. Mm-hmm. And then we unfortunately had the hit and run in our neighborhood.
That's terrible.
Nobody was hurt seriously. A couple of the dads got together and they did a hayride for the kids.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
And so they were towing the kids on, one of these utility trailers that had hay filled in it, and they had the sides up so the kids couldn't fall out or anything. And they were going very slowly. And some schmo in a black Jeep whacked them and then ran off.
Nice.
One of the dads was taken to the hospital with some injuries to his leg. None of the kids were hurt. But, the 911 call is like, all right, we got a bunch of kids and adults on a hayride. So they sent everybody. They sent 2 fire engines, 2 EMS, about a dozen sheriff's deputies. Now, what Schmuckley, who hit them, doesn't understand is that we have cameras that show your car and show your license plate, both going in and going out.
And there's only one way in.
You will be caught,
one way out.
And they will turn you over to me.
Nice.
Yes, it will be.
Kept count last night, 27. That's not good. I mean, we used to get up in the hundreds of kids coming up to our door for Halloween, and 27 last night. It was cold. A lot of kids had, coats on over their costumes, and that's kind of a bummer.
Well, but it's so funny. I was doing my last-minute candy buying thing yesterday. It's become kind of a game. And I went to a
Can you find some on Halloween Day?
Well, I used to be able to find it. It was all at half price. And this year, everybody shopped early, I think. But I was at a Walgreens, and there was this cashier, and she was talking to one of the managers.
Wrong wall, dude. You go to Walmart.
Walgreens is the man's store. I must confess, however, I ended up at Walmart when I came here. Just say it.
Okay.
But anyway, this cashier was talking to her manager, and she said, well, I've only lived here a month, and I need to know a good, safe neighborhood for my kids to trick-or-treat in. And so I said, pardon me for interjecting, where do you live? She said, I live in Shenandoah. And I said, it's perfectly safe. You can take your kids in Shenandoah. And lots of kids and grandkids said, oh, cool. But she'd just gotten here and...
Should have given her my address.
I was going to tell her, well, if you go down Elvin Lane...
I've got about 40 pounds of candy left over this morning. I always buy too much candy. I do every year.
We're bad about this in my household. And I bought 6 of the medium-sized bags. Mm-hmm. So I probably have 4 of the medium-sized bags left over, which will all end up on my gut and my butt within the next 3 weeks.
I considered bringing a whole big bowl of candy and just slapping it down here on the table at La Divina and seeing what was going to happen. La Divina is where we are, La Divina Italian Cafe at Acadian and Perkins, and we invite you to come on by, have a delicious cup of coffee, or, for lunch, dinner. Real Italian gelato is their specialty as well. And this morning, the podcast is brought to you by
Salassi Jewelry.
There you go. Our friends... Renee and Stuart Salassi have got themselves a very, very special store. And if you get out there today, because this is the last day, you can take advantage of some great savings through November 1st, through close of business today. They've got some great savings opportunities on all sorts of jewelry, gift items, and more. And ladies, Mignon Faget. They sell Mignon Faget there. And one of the best things about it is if you need something made or repaired, Stuart can take care of that for you because he is a certified GIA diamond graduate, Stuart Salassi. He knows his diamonds and he knows his jewelry repair.
And I like their attitude. They are a metropolitan jewelry store on Range Avenue in a beautiful setting, lots of room, and they've got everything. So I'll tell you a little bit more about them from my perspective near the middle of the program here. But if you're thinking about Christmas, think about Salassi Jewelry, and we're going to be out there live. We're going to do a kind of a welcome event for them on next Thursday.
Next Thursday afternoon.
And we're doing it in the afternoon, so you have time to come and see us.
You have time to make plans.
And we'll tell you more a little bit about it. All right, News Digest. You ready for bad news?
Let's go.
Not bad as in make you cry. Bad as in they just don't spell well. And I got two of them today. One of them is from Bob Courtney. Of course, Bob, news director for many, many years. And Bob is even more picky about grammar than I am. And I don't know what station, but it was one of the local stations talking about this horrible case of this deputy from Livingston Parish and his wife, the former teacher, and all these counts of child porn and molestation and things like that. And the reporter was going through this guy's record and meant to have in the super letter of commendation, and somebody had typed in letter of accommodation.
Okay. And so they went with that.
Well, it made the air, and I don't think that anybody wanted to accommodate this deputy's salacious and illegal things.
He's not a popular guy.
No,
he's
not.
Today.
And again, another repeat offender. I don't need to mention his name, but once again, Kevin,
You mentioned his name.
Well, I did, yeah. But I was
You were addressing me.
I was addressing you. Forget what I said about Kevin Foster. Forget it.
No, what is it?
I didn't mean to say Kevin Foster. We are going to have to get things together for the bake sale. Now, we got Karen. She baked you some chocolate scones, by
Devilishly
the way.
good scones.
Were they devilishly good?
Marvelous.
Did you share them?
Yes, Marianne and I enjoyed them a lot.
Well, good.
With morning coffee.
But Marianne doesn't have the allergy to fruit, so she could have had the other ones, right?
Yeah.
All right, now. But
Actually, she was like, you had current scones and you didn't bring them home to me? I'm sorry.
Yes, they were current. They weren't stale. No, but, all right, but here we go now. Again, we're going to have our bake sale, and you're going to know why in a minute. We need to do something to help the EBRSO. This is the story about the deputy who fatally shot that man on Highland Club Road. He has resigned, okay, citing his personal and family health. But he said, in the story, it says, a spokesman for Louisiana State Police says the day of the incident, EBRSO received a disturbance call. For reasons still under investigation, the EBRSO deputy fired their weapon after coming into contact with the man. Fatally
I'm
injured
glad he
him.
had the one weapon.
We have got to get the sheriff's department more than one weapon. Can I put my bullet in? I'm doing Barney Fife and Andy here. Andy Taylor and Barney Fife.
Ange?
And
Thinking about putting a bullet in the weapon. What? Yeah, I mean, fired their weapon.
fired their weapon. His weapon.
The weapon, even. Yeah.
And this is the third time.
I keep coming back to this, though. I think they try to use they and their because now there's this big thing amongst the youthful to not do gender-specific pronouns. No he, no her. It's them, they. It's like, look, there's certain realities of biology you can't get around.
Well, and there are certain areas of English you can't get around either. And that is the language du jour. And
At least for now.
what this man is saying, this news reporter at a big news organization here in town, is saying that the sheriff's department only has one weapon. And this is not the first time he said it. It's not the second time he said it. It's not the third time he said
It's
it.
the way he says it repeatedly.
And again, if this is the way he speaks, you shouldn't have him writing your news because he is going to write the way he speaks. Or you should remediate it so that he doesn't say this again. And You know, I've been wrong before. If I'm wrong, you and I are going to call Sid Gotro, and we're going to have a bake sale, and we're going to try to buy them some more weapons. So that EBRSO, so that at least, you know, like every fourth deputy has a weapon. So that they don't have to say, call the station. Ange, Barney, bring me the weapon. I think I might have to shoot it. Angie, bring me the weapon.
The weapon. He fired their weapon.
Yes.
Do they have more than one taser, do you think?
The EBRSO deputy fired their weapon after coming into contact with the man, fatally injuring him. Like I said, this guy's a frequent flyer. So I'm yeah, at the risk of sounding like a bully, you know, I hate to mention that his name is Kevin Foster, he works for Channel 9, but I will. Now look, let me show you Bill's kinder, gentler side. Doesn't come off much, but I would like these young journalists to be successful. I would like them to grow, to flourish, to be outstanding in their field. However, when you write sentences like this, you're going to be outstanding in a field without a job sooner or later. So I do this out of concern. And I also do it.
Just remember, it comes from a place of love.
And I also do it because, damn, you all are thick. If I have to mention this 5 times and you still don't fix it.
Are you ready to get on?
No, one more.
One more. You got another one?
One more.
This is a regular thing, Heather.
Fresh this morning, you know, it got pretty darn chilly over the last couple of days, right?
Yep.
So what is happening in homes all over our area?
People are turning their heaters on.
People are turning their heaters on. Well, so every morning show is doing the, you know, firing up your heater for the first time tips, right?
Yep.
Well, one of the stations, and I'm not going to mention it by name, but one of the stations this morning had a super during the whole story. They didn't take it down. It said, tips for better cooling your home. In other words,
Saw that.
They just pulled up the Chiron from like May.
And MA pointed that out to me, and I said, that was probably a stock piece, and they just pulled it out, you know, had a little extra time to fill. It was relevant, and nobody bothered to make the modification. But you know, it's wonderful. The first time you fire up the heater is that terrible smell. That terrible smell, and you know, for a moment you worry about the house being on fire. It's just great. Yikes. All right, are we all done? With no?
Yeah, no, we're done. We're done.
We're done. It's time to get into our topic for today, and this is a topic that's this is something that's catching fire, but not without a certain level of controversy. You're seeing the ads on television. You've followed some of the legislation. We certainly kept you abreast of legislation in Louisiana. We're going to talk about cannabis and cannabis products. We're not going to talk about legally using cannabis as a recreational material. We're going to talk about the benefits of one of the 2 active drugs, CBD. And let me just pull out the shot here.
Wait, we're talking about like legitimate stuff, not anything I can have fun with?
Well, you can have fun with it if you want with our guest Heather Carter.
Hi, Heather.
Hey guys, how's it going?
It's going quite well. Are you now shocked and saddened to be sitting here with us after you've heard the first 10 minutes?
I've actually had some great giggles. This was a perfect start to the morning.
Well,
Heather is the executive director of the Louisiana Cannabis Retailers Association. Now, cannabis products doesn't necessarily mean pot, right?
Absolutely, it does not.
Marijuana's got your THC, which is the chemical that affects the brain.
Exactly.
And then there's CBD, which, well, tell us what CBD does.
Which is actually extracted from the hemp plant. So there's actually 2 types of cannabis plants. One is the marijuana plant, which everyone's familiar with, and then there's the hemp plant, which is where we're at with it now. And your CBD is actually extracted from that hemp plant. Hemp is grown with mostly CBD, very little THC. So CBD is indeed going to work in your brain, but it's also going to work in your entire body, and it doesn't give you that what most people are used to, that stoned or high effect that you get from CBD. Exactly. I mean, that you get from THC. So CBD has that therapeutic, more medicinal, and not to say THC does not, but that's more what CBD is used suitable for.
So how does it work? I mean, is it a pain reliever? Is it
So
is it a blocker? What is it?
It's super neat, actually. We are born with an endocannabinoid system. We are born with it. And so from head to toe, we have a system. And whenever we use cannabinoids, it interacts with the receptors of that system and it puts our body into balance. And so it is actually a body balancer. It creates homeostasis. And upon having a balanced body, there is a removal of so many ailments. That's why you hear everyone, they all have a different issue, right? Some for anxiety, some for depression, some for pain, some for liver inflammation. And I mean, I could go on for a whole show just about that. So it's really balancing the body, and the balanced body no longer ails a person as an unbalanced body would.
Now, there's a lot of science. There's been a lot of research about this, and we could get really into the weeds, and I think people would misunderstand. But the CBD oils and preparations come in 4 or 5 different ways, and you can apply them topically, right? Do you do any of it like sublingually or anything like that? Tell me what you carry, because you're also a distributor of CBD products. In fact, Lance was telling us that they're going to be carrying them here at La Divina very soon.
That's exactly right. So I'm actually one of the founders of Mountain Pure. We're the first company here in Louisiana to actually start a brand of CBD. We've been here since 2017, way before anyone was interested in CBD. And you can do so much with it. The most common is the oil. When you hear people say CBD, what do they say? They say CBD oil. And that is sublingual. And that is the most effective. You can get, the most bang for the milligram. It goes under the tongue, so it bypasses the belly. And so it's simply wonderful and effective, and it disperses through your whole system. That said, there's all these other products that I like to call bonus products, because how amazing is a topical? If your knee's hurting, that topical is going to go right to the spot. It's going to work without minutes. It's just not going to give you that full body balance I was talking about earlier. So in conjunction, depending on a person's need, the oil and a secondary product is great. But we always tell people the oil is absolutely the way to go. And really everyone could use it, because we all have an endocannabinoid system. It becomes a dose issue. What do you need for your body?
Is it dosed by weight like a lot of medications are? In other words, you look at a skinny little 115-pound person, and then you look at me and you say, no, you need, half a milliliter. You need 2 milliliters. Is it done that way? Do you have to be kind of scientific when you're using it?
You don't really. Let's start with the first question. It is based on a couple of things. The first one is definitely weight, but the other two is the deficiency of your system, which we don't have any way to measure that at this point, as well as the severity of your ailment. So if you're talking about someone that may have some muscle aches because they work out a lot versus someone that may have fibro or may have cancer, even the ailment will make a difference. And then so your size, the severity of your ailment, as well as the deficiency of your system. So it also, your second question was sort of, does it have to be so technical? It really doesn't. It's not going to harm you if you use a little more or a little less. It's a plant. We talk about it in a very medicinal manner, but it is a beautiful supplement.
Opium is a plant too, but you have to be careful how much you put into it.
Absolutely. Well, this you don't. There's no side effects. You could drink that bottle. It wouldn't ail you. It wouldn't harm you. So everyone is different. It's more about just finding kind of your groove. Most adults use a similar amount. Yes, your weight matters, but we tend to teach people how to find it for themselves. People are very used to going to a doctor and saying, what do I need based on my weight and this and that, and they give you a prescription and you go home. We tend to say, let me tell you how this works, and then let me empower you to figure that out for yourself, sort of thing.
Now, more and more I'm hearing medical people, because we do a lot of medical interviews, medical people are saying inflammation. That's the big magic word, the big bad guy. Inflammation is the cause of so many problems.
And particularly in your gut.
Yeah, especially in your gut and in other key organs. But does this help?
It does. So it's every once in a while you'll read an article and it'll call it an anti-inflammatory. It is not an anti-inflammatory. It is, however, a body balancer. And like I was saying earlier, a balanced body doesn't have the inflammation that an unbalanced body does. So it does indeed reduce inflammation. It's just not considered, quote unquote, an anti-inflammatory. And that is why we see so many amazing benefits. That's why this is so different from anything else you've seen, right? Because it is not working on your headache or your bad knee. It is working on your full body, reducing inflammation, balancing it out, and giving you this holistic sort of overhaul, basically.
Now, I see you have different modalities for delivery.
Yeah, we got some products here on the table.
So you have something that looks like a diabetic syringe there. What is that for?
So that is a single serving. What we found is, so with the new law, here in Louisiana, you cannot walk
No
into...
needle.
Not at all. It's just a way to administer it under your tongue. It's sublingual. That's all it is.
Is this one loaded up?
It is, and it's
Open
the
your mouth,
same exact...
Kevin.
You have to take the top off.
Can I just put it in my coffee?
You could do that too.
Daddy's going to help you with your inflammation. Open your mouth.
So before the session last year, you could walk into a place like this, they could put it in your coffee, and you could walk out and you could have a serving of CBD with your coffee. We left the session this year with a very crippled industry here in Louisiana, and that is one of the things that they removed from us. You can no longer walk into a place like this and put it in your coffee or get it in a smoothie. And so the idea between these is twofold. First of all, if you forgot your bottle at home and you need to grab some, or you want to try it and not go all in, you can grab one of those. If you also come into a place like this and you do want it into your coffee, you can buy your own, put it in your own coffee, stir it yourself, and then go about your day.
But the vendor can't do it for you.
That's exactly right. That is.
Well, they're dispensing a drug, so to speak.
That's the idea. That is
Kind of like
the
ordering
idea.
a drink in Utah.
There's no alcohol in there.
But I do have this very young
Now-
girl. Oh, that's another story.
How many milliliters is this?
That is 1 milliliter, and it's 60 milligrams. That's one of our higher doses. That comes out of one of our larger dosed bottles.
Now, it's with 60 milligrams, am I gonna feel any kind of a difference?
So you don't feel CBD. What happens is what you notice is the removal of what ails you. So let's say your knee hurts, which you'll notice 30 minutes
The knee
later
hurts
is that
less.
exactly. You don't feel anything. And if you do, I tell people all the time, if you use CBD and you feel something and you're like, "Woo," then you need to double check and make sure there's nothing in it. Now, some people are sensitive. Every once in a while, somebody will use a lot and they'll say, "Oh, it did make me a little sleepy," but that's not a commonality. It's not something that you see very often. There's really no feeling.
Now, the eyedropper bottle is just a larger version of this, sublingual, right?
That's exactly right. And we've got several sizes of that. And basically, the larger the bottle, the cheaper it is per milligram. It allows someone to use it monthly. That's the only difference.
Okay, and these are supplements?
It is, and that is a unique product to us that we get super excited about. That is the superfood moringa.
Moringa.
Yes. It's a superfood grown in the
do the moringa.
Himalayas. It's got 92 vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. So my family is very homeopathic. We don't really use pharmaceuticals, over-the-counter, synthetics. So we've been using moringa as a multivitamin for 6-7 years now. So when we started the company, it made sense to blend it with CBD. So when people come to me and they say, "I've got X, Y, and Z issue," well, they probably need a balanced endocannabinoid system, but I assure you they're deficient in some sort of nutrition as well. All of us are.
Kevin is
And
terribly disappointed because, see, he thought that bottle had suppositories, and he's kind of into that.
Wow. Wow. Kind of into that. Yikes. So, but one of these a day would help me with chronic pain,
It
back
would.
pain, that
It's
sort of thing?
so moringa is an anti-inflammatory as well. Plus, it would have CBD in it, and that's got 10 milligrams of CBD a day. So remember, it is about the dosage. So you'd use it, you'd see what works, and you may need a little more, or you may need a little bit less.
Now, I see
Interesting.
it looks like a lotion bottle. This would be, for example, for my god-awful knee.
Topical.
I would put some in the palm of my hand and rub it all over the knee, and maybe once or twice a day, and it would help me with my inflammation in my knee and my pain.
It would, except this is more of a body lotion. We do have a topical. I just didn't grab it. We do have a topical that's
But
like
there are
for
some
pain.
places you need inflammation.
And we're
Okay.
gonna.
So this is
But
more
this
for
is,
like the for like
dry
the salon.
skin, right, rosacea, eczema, things like
Oh,
that.
okay, all right, I got it.
So it is going to be great for your skin issues, but there is a pain formula over there that, yes, indeed, you would use. Yep, that's it. You would use directly on the spot, and
Lance just showed up with his personal stash.
Well, I only grabbed a few things, and then I realized,
This he brought. This is
that
a
is our soap. and
CBD
it's
soap with
amazing.
oatmeal in it.
Yes.
I mean, and
so
look,
good.
oatmeal.
Yeah. Oatmeal and tea tree oil are fabulous, and we blend that with CBD. It's great for things like acne and, again, rosacea, skin irritations.
I use tea
those
tree on
such
my
of
hair.
things. Tea tree is amazing.
Yeah.
I use it
What's
in my
left
hair,
of it? I mean, look
too.
how well it's worked for me.
What you have left is beautiful.
But I looked like you before I started.
Now, what is the cake right there in front?
This is actually a bath bomb, and that's an interesting sort of chat because most people consider bath bombs, and you just think of a pretty blue unicorn bath bomb, and your kid or your wife enjoys it in the tub, and that's not what these are for. This is absolutely for pain. So this is one of the best ways to get a full body. You are soaking your entire body in CBD. For someone that has, say, a deep joint pain, this topical may not get deep enough, right? For fibro patients, we find that they struggle with any of these really being hugely useful. So our bath bombs allow for a full body soak in CBD, insomnia, panic attacks, something like that.
And I noticed that the label says, dunk your junk. I'm sorry, I gotta be me.
You are frisky today.
Wait,
He is
wait,
this morning.
wait.
You are very frisky today.
Gotta be me.
Yikes. Okay, I have a couple questions, and I don't want to hit you with anything that you may not be able to answer for me, but they are your products.
Yeah, go for it.
Where is the hemp grown? Where is it sourced from?
So the hemp is grown from a farm. It's an organic farm in Colorado. So there's still no such thing as USDA organic for CBD or hemp, but they do use organic practices. They also have a lab, so they grow it, they farm it, harvest it, and then they extract the CBD from the flowering part of that plant, and then that is where we get the extract from.
She's talking about the kind buds, my brother.
Right, absolutely.
I'm with you.
That is exactly right. And then we have a facility here, actually in central Louisiana, and we formulate
In the center of the city or up there in God's country?
Yes.
I don't know what this plant is, Mr. Kevin, but it makes everybody at church real docile. Wednesday nights just aren't the same.
There is much ballyhoo about CBD as some kind of a miracle drug. I mean, let's talk about realistic expectations.
So realistic expectations, it is absolutely amazing, guys. I mean, like I told you, it's a body balancer. So the reason people tout it as amazing is because it works for kind of everyone and everybody's issues. I think the most recent research says it doesn't work on, let's say, 6 to 8% of the population. Those are amazing numbers. Now, that said, let's talk about what working actually means. What that means is that everyone's going to have a different experience. It's not going to it's not going to remove every single issue you have. It also takes a little time. It is balancing your body, so let's say you've got hip issues and you've got bone on bone. Well, it's not going to remove the bone on bone, right? But it will allow you comfort, and it will remove that inflammation, and it will give you some relief, right? And so we do need to be realistic. It does sometimes take a little time, but it does work beautifully on so many things.
I have to ask you a very serious question, just to maybe clarify what products you have and how they work. A very dear friend of mine, last year in June, passed away from pancreatic cancer. He was diagnosed maybe in March, and in May, he got to where he's having a lot of pain. He couldn't sleep, and they knew that the end might be near. But his doctor, now he lives in Illinois, his doctor gave him a card that allowed him to go get hemp CBD oil, which his wife told us worked very well in terms of his discomfort level, his ability to sleep. Is that the same type of product that you have here? Is there a prescription level on this, or just the laws in Illinois are different?
I don't know what the laws in Illinois is. I can tell you here, and this will answer your question somewhat. So medical marijuana, and this is the case here in Louisiana as well, is CBD. It's just CBD extracted from the marijuana plant. Remember, they're both cannabis. It does have CBD. So what you're getting is you're getting CBD, but you're getting a higher amount of THC. It's a ratio that's in those bottles.
Yeah, okay.
And so that's probably what it is. That's probably a similar idea, and that's because that's here what you need a recommendation for, and you have to go to one of those pharmacies here in Louisiana and receive that. And so commonly that's what people are using. Can they use this? Yeah, we do have cancer patients that use our highest dosage. Do you really want a little of that THC though? I mean, you do. You really do. If you're suffering, especially at that point, that's what medical marijuana is
Well, and
for.
I do remember that as recently as maybe about 10 months ago, there were people in our government that were saying the medical marijuana in Louisiana has no THC in it. And finally, one of the growers said that's not
Absolutely
correct.
not correct.
The guy that was in charge of the grow operation says that's
not
Yeah,
correct.
it's so
There's
wrong.
THC in there.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think that's objectionable to anybody, but I think the people from the official end of business were either kind of wanting to look past that or maybe didn't understand. So what does this cost? I have no idea.
Yeah, I was going to ask about price.
Yeah,
point.
it's a good question. So it really ranges. Our oils and our products range anywhere from, as low as even say $20 for the topical, all the way up to $300 and something for the highest dosage of oil. But there's something kind of in between that. We've got 25 products, and we did that on purpose. So every product we have, there's like a smaller one of the larger. For instance, that's one of our average bottles, and it's $130. But there's a bottle of oil that you can get for $50.
But
that'll get you started.
At how many you do? What, 2
That is
drops?
60. Actually, well, there's 60 full droppers in there. An average person's going to go through that in a month, depending again on their size and the severity. I've got some people though that use my $50 bottle, and it lasts them all month.
How about if I want to buy one of these and put it in my coffee?
Some people are going to split that into 2. Some people will use it in 1, and even some will use it in 4. But we commonly say most people, on average, are going to use 30 milligrams once or twice a day. So that's sort of when I talk about average. This is an average monthly bottle. I tell people if you want to use CBD every day and you have an ailment that you actually need it for something chronic, look to spending around $100, give or take, every 30 days or so. That's a safe number.
Heather, you're not only a manager of the company that sells the products, which again is called Mountain Pure. I'll even give you your web address. What the hell?
Well, they're going to
You can
be
find them.
they're going to be in La Divina starting in
are.
about a
In
week.
La Divina,
Yeah, they're
and
here
you can find
already,
them
yeah.
Mountain Pure CBD on Facebook and mountainpurecbd.com. But you're also, a part of the Cannabis Retailers Association. Are you going to be pressing for Louisiana farmers to be able to grow hemp?
Oh, and they can grow hemp. So the reason we started that association is because, and you guys said earlier that y'all sort of followed the session. It was very destructive for the industry. We left there incredibly crippled. We're still crippled. I think come January, when the laws really kick in, we're going to see the removal of a lot of brands here. I think we're going to see a lot of our retailers suffering. Some of our larger retailers that sell 30 brands now are going to be able to sell 2. And so we started this association because of that, because we needed a voice. We needed a little bit of support as an industry.
Just for clarity, what did the legislature do that might take a big storefront from 30 brands to 2 brands? Did they have to be a Louisiana company, or what did they do? Put restrictions on them?
Yeah, so it was a few things. So we can no longer sell edibles and inhalables, the hemp flower. Those are big sales. Those are big sellers. And what's going to happen is your customer is going to go online for that and no longer come into your store. Bottom line. So that's going to be one issue.
What was the objection? Were there for kids going to get it?
Pretty much,
Yeah.
and
They
it's
ought
a
to
food
outlaw Tide
item.
Pods.
I'm telling y'all, they had a lot of insane objections. That basically it's snake oil, and they don't know where it comes from.
Name
and it's-
names. Who had the most? Who had the most?
Yeah, we don't mind. I mean,
Oh, I
look,
don't
we,
mind
we
either.
love law enforcement, but I understand
Look-
that the Sheriff's Association
Yeah.
is your worst enemy.
Yeah,
The
but
Sheriff's
I want to know who we elect in the
Yes.
legislature that was
Oh,
up
well,
there
Francis
thumping.
Thompson is absolutely not our friend. Absolutely, not our friend.
Francis doesn't love you all.
He's not even remotely
That guy's
our
like
friend.
a cartoon. tune.
It's ridiculous, but he's got plenty of pull, and so
Oh,
there,
yeah,
and,
he's very powerful
he
man.
wrote the last few amendments on that bill. The Sheriff's Association refuses to have anything to do with it, which is what turned it over to the ATC and has created so many regulations. I've never seen anything like it. Out-of-state brands, I mean, our testing, we will be spending about 30 grand between now and the end of the year to deal with Louisiana Department of Health. They're basically treating it like a food substance, so which may not sound like a big deal to you guys, but it's, I mean, but to have it tested is, I'm looking at, $500 to $700 per batch of product.
Wait a second. Who's overstepping here? Because if the legislature says it's a food product and then they put it in the hands of the ATC,
Interesting,
the
isn't it?
ATC
Yeah.
has got no jurisdiction over food supplements.
No.
Because it ain't alcohol, it ain't tobacco, and it damn sure ain't a firearm.
Thank you.
And
Right
that
on
is
time.
our argument, and that is our complaint. It is, we've lost a lot of retailers that simply don't want to deal with the ATC. You lose a lot of independent sales because the thing with ATC is the minute they get a permit, they're allowed in your place of business or in your area. They can come, they can inspect, they can audit your belongings.
Shut you down.
Exactly. So let's say you're an
Extort
independent
sex.
broker and you're selling
Run for
CBD
parish
out of your
president?
home. You're going to quit selling it out of your home, aren't you? Because who wants the ATC in their home? That's unacceptable. So I could go on and on with it's a complete and unnecessary overstep for something that should be treated
Who's
like
your attorney? Because
vitamin.
I mean, they might as well have put it over to DMV. I mean, they have no jurisdiction here. It's not one of the substances that they can regulate.
So we contacted a couple of attorneys, and one of the biggest ones out of Denver that oversees, quite a few of the large national associations. And pretty much what we were told was there's really no argument we can make, that there's no constitutional argument that we can make, and that the minute our state gave the ATC oversight, because that is a regulatory agency, that they can do whatever they want. So it's no longer a legal issue, that at this point the ATC can sit back, write as many rules as they want, and we have no recourse for that because our state gave them that oversight.
Well, I would
basically.
challenge the legality of giving oversight to them since it's
Right.
not in their portfolio.
Agreed, and again, we were shut down, and we tried. We called attorney after attorney, and we tried. Now, they said, maybe $100,000 later we could possibly do something, but again, you're talking a brand new industry here. We're all mostly small businesses. We were absolutely trampled, I mean,
Well, but
during the
you
session.
still have products that you can bring to the marketplace.
We do, yes.
And they appear to be widely embraced by those who use them.
Absolutely.
And they will be in La Divina here
They're here.
They're here already.
Yep, he's got them all set up, ready to go, yeah.
Display case sitting yonder.
Very good, very good. Well, it's a fascinating discussion.
Absolutely.
And we appreciate your taking the time to be with us this morning.
I'm glad to be here.
And I'm sure, it ain't over yet. The legislature has really turned over this year. We've got a whole bunch of new people.
Yeah, but Francis is still there.
Francis
don't
is
you love how
still
that
there.
happened? But we're going to be more prepared this year. We were not prepared last year. We were not together. We didn't have an association. We will go into next year very prepared.
Well, at least you're not trying to forward 18, 19, and 20-year-old strippers.
And it's funny
No.
because it's not like there's a movement to legalize recreational smoking of marijuana in this state.
Exactly.
Nobody is even advocating for that.
It's true. This is so very harmless, and I will be honest with y'all, and maybe this is a little naivety on my part, but I was a little blindsided. For people like me, that we live a holistic life, we don't go to doctors, we don't use pharmaceuticals or over the counter. This is a very just benign, it makes sense for my family, and
Well,
so it's just been Baton Rouge too is closed-minded.
Let's get right down to it. There is a large population of this state, and in my opinion, they're terribly overrepresented in the legislature, that believe you go to the preacher when you have problems or you have pain. And of course,
He'll lay hands upon
you
you.
leave a lot in the collection basket when you're doing that.
That's true.
Well,
And then you also have the Pharmacy Association as a
And
giant
there it is.
as a giant lobby.
That's exactly right. I was going to bring that up.
we have someone we respect a great deal, and she is part of the trial lawyers a group to kind of change the rules for trial lawyers. And I said, look, they're spending in Baton Rouge alone. They're spending $7-8 million a month in advertising. What you got? And she said, I don't have anything. I said, and
Therein lies the
therein
problem.
lies
It
the problem.
does.
But it's just like with the blue laws, where you couldn't have a drink on Sunday. And when they fought the casinos, they were worried what was going to come out of their collection plate at all the big churches. That's what they were worried about.
Oh, that's definitely is. And let's also pinpoint that medical marijuana is a pharmaceutical in Louisiana. It is overseen by the Board of Pharmacies. And our trouble this year started with a single letter written by the Board of Pharmacies. So the companies that are producing medical marijuana are also producing THC-free CBD.
Somebody asked me to ask this question before we let you go. If I come in and I buy CBD for my knee and I apply it regularly and it helps me, will I fail a drug test at my place of work?
Okay, so good question.
That is a great question.
It is. Our products do not have THC, and most employer testing is testing for THC. You would maybe want to confirm that with your employer, but the majority, that's what they're testing. However, it is indeed legal to sell CBD products with a trace of THC, right? The law is under 0.3%. So if you go somewhere else and you buy a CBD product with THC, yes, indeed, you can. So I tell people all the time, you have to be educated. You've got to ask questions. You need to know what type of product you're getting. We do not produce, being in a prohib state, being in conservative Louisiana, blah, blah, we don't put THC in our products. They are sold here in our state, however.
The thing is, there's no regulation about what employers, there's no regulation for threshold for employers. An employer can say absolute zero tolerance.
Exactly.
For any trace of THC in your system.
Yeah, I always
And our
recommend
our
go
former
talk to your
employer.
employer. Just go have a conversation with them now. Everybody knows what it is. Go have a conversation.
Our former employer has an absolute zero tolerance policy, and there's no discussing it if you test positive.
Wow.
There's no discussion.
Well, and a lot of drug testing is just to make your insurance company happy. Let's talk about it.
Yes.
And so it can be really, really strange. I worked in a major medical center that sold poppy seed muffins in their cafeteria throughout the day. Now, guess what happens if you have a
It
couple of those
definitely
poppy
does.
seed muffins and you're called that afternoon
Sure
for your drug
does.
test? You're going to test positive for heroin.
opiates.
You are,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, but anyway. Well, Heather, we wish you a lot of success. Like I said, the products are here now at La
and
Divina.
Get it while it's hot, because you never know what's going to happen at the end of June or at the end of May when the legislative session is wrapping up.
Well, we're not
guys-
going anywhere. We're gonna
guys.
plant our feet firmly. And thank you guys.
Yeah, and
really.
fight.
That's exactly right. Yeah, we're definitely not going to go away quietly or anything like that. We absolutely believe in what we're doing. It really is just to help people, man. That's what we're here for,
Well, and,
Heather, it has been a pleasure.
too.
Adults can still make their own choices. At
Yes.
least last time
Who knew?
Yeah, at least the last time I checked, even though there are some blowhards in our legislature that don't want them to. God, I got to chill up my spine when the guy from LABI, when John was talking about perhaps Ronnie Johns would be Speaker of the House.
Ronnie Johns, the stripper law guy?
Yeah.
That's one of the, you familiar with the stripper bill? It's a guy named Ronnie Johns in the House. He originated a bill that basically said if you're going to be an exotic dancer, you have to be 21 to be an exotic dancer. Now, there were probably several thousand girls between 18
Absolutely,
and
there
21
are.
that were suddenly cut off from what an income level.
Right.
I agree. It's a crappy way to make a
Well,
living,
and-
but it's a lot
But
of
it was
money.
their
It's
way.
a possibility to make a lot of money when
Right.
you're 19 years
Well,
old.
You've harmed them, possibly their children now.
No, but the
you know.
lawsuit to defend his unconstitutional law, which ended up losing, cost us nearly $1 million, which we said at the very beginning is exactly what would happen.
We said it was unconstitutional because we're a right-to-work state.
Well,
Crazy.
it's also at 18 years of age, you can go into the Army, and they'll hand you an M16.
Yeah, but you can't
Well,
buy a
it is a
cigarette.
complete overstep. At the end of the day, they've got to know, I mean, they believe that their power is power. We can make a decision for you. This is what we believe in, so you have to believe in it, and that's not, it's incorrect. It's a very huge fallacy.
Well, somebody from the First Church, you damn well better do what I say, told him that they didn't like that.
Again, if you're curious, Mountain Pure CBD and These products, at least some of these products, are going to be available right here at La Divina beginning today.
On to the news of the day. Heather, thank you so much for
Thanks,
being
guys.
with us.
This was great.
So, Kevin,
Bill.
we're talking about Halloween and people moving around and all that. Have you noticed that we now have a priority list of the street improvement projects here in Baton Rouge?
I noticed some projects dropped off that priority list.
Yeah, well,
After a recent election. Interesting.
Choices will be made.
Interesting, but the priority list is, it's an interesting read. I think there are things that needed to be done, certainly.
Now, I don't know that we have this problem in Baton Rouge. I sent an email to our good friends at BRPD, and I've asked for Chief Paul, who, by the way, wants to come on our podcast, to join us. But the International Association of Chiefs of Police, it is one of the oldest law enforcement associations in the world.
Mm-hmm.
They just had their annual meeting, I believe it was in Chicago. And their most important issue is the rising, at an alarming rate, rising rate of officer suicides in this country.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, the Trump administration has authorized in next year's budget $55 million to go to police departments to work on identifying, counseling, helping, mitigating, and supporting officers at risk to try to get this suicide rate down. Now, we hear about suicides in other areas, in police departments, large and small.
Mm-hmm.
There was one in a very, very small by comparison town in Arkansas just last week. This guy was a veteran officer. He'd been there for 21 years. And I'm talking about, a police department of 70, 80 people. Not a huge police department. And he said he just couldn't take what he saw on the street. He couldn't take, the stressors, and off he went. Now, I don't think we have had a problem here yet.
I don't recall an officer suicide recently. I may be missing something,
But I'm wondering if they are identifying and getting in early, because I know in talking with members of the union over the last 4 or 5 years, that's one of the things they've been worried about. Officer stress, officer burnout. They have been they haven't been the macho men and women on that one. They're saying, yeah, it's something we worry about.
Mm-hmm.
The stress level, burnout, things like that. So,
well, and add to that, now we've got an environment where they're not appreciated. We used to honor and appreciate our law enforcement officers. Now everybody calls them pig, and everybody assumes the worst of them, and you have people that who was that jackass that said he wanted to disarm the police? What a stupid idea that was. That was a congressman was in favor of disarming the police. It's like, yeah, let's send them out there helpless.
well, yeah. Now, one of the things that our Constitution allows, it allows for morons. It does. But I still remember back in the 70s, a bumper sticker that got quite popular where I lived, and it said, "Don't like cops? Next time you need help, call a hippie."
Yeah. And good luck with that.
Yeah. But anyway, we have. I don't know when the chief is going to be able to join us. I gave our good friends Elgene McNeely and Johnny Dunham and Don Coppola a bunch of dates so they could try to whip it. But
we would welcome Chief Paul anytime he'd like to be on the program.
I would like to hear him speak on this issue because it's been in the national news now for 3 or 4 days, with this big grant money coming from the feds, and also that the chiefs of police globally are worried about this. And I was wondering, do we already have programs in place? Are they identifying officers? Is he concerned about the men and women of his department?
Who would have oversight over such a program? I mean, would that be the coroner's office?
I would think it would be, every large police department like ours, and you have to consider BRPD large department.
Yeah.
They have a chief legal advisor. They have a chief medical officer. They have sociologists and psychologists.
So they have like a department shrink.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah, because everybody, if you're involved in a violent incident or you see a horrific crime scene, maybe a kid that was,
You need counseling.
Yeah, you need somebody to talk to you to see how you're doing. But yeah, I would think that it would be administered within the department. That way, they can also feel like they are being taken care of by their own.
It's amazing. to
And you
me.
also have a lot of chaplains, too.
It's amazing to me with all the negatives that stack up why we even have police anymore. And I don't mean we don't need them. I mean,
Why anybody
let's
would
look-
want to do
let's
it.
look locally and look. I'm Chief Paul. I'm not indicting you or the city government. It is what it is right now, and hopefully we can work to change it. But you got unpopular, hated and derided by the populace, crappy pay. I mean, absolutely crappy pay unless you've got like seniority. You know, why would anybody want to be a cop?
But you know what it's about? And you and I have had the privilege, by the way, of spending a lot of time when we were on the radio with cops at every level. We've had the sheriff's department, we've had state police, we have city police, we've had the feds. They have all been generous with their time and talked very openly with us and everybody else on the air. And what I noticed is these people want to do their job. They understand that sometimes they're misunderstood. They understand that not everybody is going to love them for what they do as part of their job. But you know what they want? Is they want to feel like somebody's got their back and respects them. And I'm not talking in the public, I'm talking internally. And you and I know a little bit about what that's about, don't we?
Yeah, yeah. You want to feel like the people you work for have got your back
And respect you.
and believe in you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes, and I'm not saying it's the chief. I'm saying sometimes it's, and I'm not even specifically talking about Baton Rouge. Sometimes it's City Hall. I'm reminded of Baltimore when Baltimore was on fire, and the mayor tells the police back off. It's like, you know, was that for the police's protection or to tell them, don't bother enforcing the
Well,
law?
no, she was very clear about it. What she said was that their presence would inflame things
Just
more.
make things worse.
Well, now, if that is the culture of your city, Madam Mayor, and this is Baltimore we're talking about,
Yep.
okay, then you got some work to do to change that culture.
Now, I think we're in danger of going in that direction here in Baton Rouge. I think things seem to have calmed down a bit since, say 2016, which was an explosive year. Let's face it. But
Well, we also had a lot of political opportunists. If you think about it, we had a lot of political opportunists.
we have a lot of people who make money off of stirring people up, and stirring people who don't possess the facts, and getting them angry and upset and out in the streets. And you know, that's if you can whip up the masses, the uninformed masses, and get them behind your cause, then you've got some power. And usually with that power comes a little of this too.
Well, you know, that's the whole thing. In my opinion, when it comes to matters of government broadly, currency is authority and power. Currency is not your ability to win people over or to step away if someone points out that you're wrong. Currency is not getting the most on your agenda done as effectively as possible. Currency is how much power you hold, how much power you use. And this is a system in our country that we all have to take a little responsibility for. You know, I mean, I go back, and I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to have his name out on the airwaves again, but I remember when a Roman Catholic priest, 2 days after the Alton Sterling shooting, sat with you and I and talked about how those cops murdered that man. He was unwilling to wait for the investigation. He said that.
We actually had two men of the cloth, a Roman Catholic priest and a local Protestant preacher.
Yeah. Now the
They
Roman.
made the same indictment of the police less than a week after the shooting.
Now I don't know about the Baptist preacher, but I will tell you the Roman Catholic priest functions in a hierarchy that he has people who are supposed to be looking out for him and looking over him, and nobody did a damn thing. And that's the problem. That is the problem. We had council members who tried to steal a council seat after someone's untimely and unfortunate death, and they were not censured by their body. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah. Yeah.
That, and a lot of this is the fault of talk radio. We allowed this going back 30 years, okay? A lot of this is the fault of politicians who will do anything on earth to get their bill passed or to have one more moment at the podium, where we just let anybody say any damn thing they want to publicly without qualification, and then if it's something heinous and outrageous, we don't step back and say that was a mistake. We should not have allowed that. That isn't right. And the current bishop, Bishop Duca, was not the bishop then, but I was very, very surprised that Bishop Munch did not take this priest in hand and say, you know what, we are still citizens as well as men of the cloth, and we have to believe in the process.
I think he didn't want to stir up already turbulent waters.
But see, that's the problem. Yeah, that's the problem. You get bad service at Albertsons. I mean, you go to the Albertsons at the corner of Perkins and Essen. It's one of the oldest Albertsons in this city. High volume store. They have employee problems from time to time. And I have had their manager tell me, I said, look, this employee is rude, is mean, is insulting. You need to get rid of this employee. You know what he says? He says, yeah, I know, but I'm liable to end up with someone worse.
Isn't that sad?
Well, that's
You're liable to wind up with someone better. It's 50-50.
That's the way we operate.
So you have to just accept as is.
And I again, Bishop Munch is no longer the bishop. He did or didn't do what he did or didn't do. I am just telling you that I think it would have been better for the Diocese of Baton Rouge and better for the situation of this city at that fragile time if he had taken that priest in hand and said, you can't do that. It's not right. It's not fair. And we're supposed to be fair. We're supposed to be healing, not dividing people. Isn't that right?
Well, that's the theory anyway, Bill. Yeah, I
supposed to be
I
the
think,
practice.
I think the bishop would have been within his rights to say, you stay away from microphones and cameras.
Well, no, you need to retract that. You need to say you were upset. It affected your community. I get that. But you cannot call somebody a murderer before the investigation's even been done. That's not fair. That's not right. And by the way, that's not the way of St. Paul, who wrote an awful lot about crime and justice.
Speaking of crime and justice, we got a question here. And by the way, we got a few minutes here. If you got any questions you'd like to ask, we'll do our best to field them. Eric wants to know if we have any thoughts on the recent press conference, Sheriff Jason Ard's press conference in Livingston Parish about this couple that's accused of horrible deeds involving children.
Well, I think Sheriff Ard had to do a press conference, and I stress had to. I think that he walked in to a trap on that, and somebody should have told him in advance that it was going to be a trap. But if you look back into what he was saying, when they really hammered him on this Baton Rouge police officer whose stepdaughter was with this guy, and he went and complained and said, look, he played Tickle Monster with her, was in the bed with her. Why didn't you do something about that, Sheriff? And the sheriff said, well, the victim's mother said, no harm, no foul. I am not going to prefer charges. There was nothing the sheriff could do. And I mean, I just think, what are you going to say? I've sat beside Kevin Gallagher now for well over 6 years. And if he gets accused of something heinous...
Is it your fault?
Well, and I say, look, I had no idea. Well, you're going to throw rocks at me because I sat beside him and I had no idea? This guy didn't walk around, didn't go in every day and say, man, you want to see these pictures I took of these 2-year-olds?
I think there's a leap to presume corruption at high levels in just about any law enforcement agency. And usually the way it works with a sheriff or a state police superintendent or a police chief is we love them right up until we start hating them. I think that Sheriff Ard is probably doing the best he can under the circumstances. I think his hands are somewhat tied.
This is not as heinous. This is not as terrible a thing. Hello, ladies. How are you?
Hello, how are you?
We're
Great.
good.
How doing your podcast?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. You want to come be on? We got a mic sitting there waiting for you. You sure?
No.
They're just here for the CBD oil. But not as heinous, but in the news, all right, John Paul Funes case.
Right.
If you remember when the news broke, you couldn't find one person that said, that dirty lowdown, I always knew. Everybody said, he's my friend. I love John Paul.
Yeah.
We always thought he was doing a great job. Everybody, sometimes even if you are the sheriff, you don't know until somebody is charged.
You might suspect. There might be hubbub. There might be buzz. But the police, law enforcement, need facts.
Well,
And they need a solid complaint, and they didn't get one from the mother of the young
in fact,
woman.
she refused to offer one.
Now, I don't want to start an argument with the police, the Baton Rouge police officer, but she didn't want to press it. Mm-hmm. And if armed with very little evidence, see, that was her saying, yeah, go for it, would have been entree to go get some more evidence and maybe take the thing to a grand jury. But basically, if the mom of the alleged victim says, it's no big deal,
Well,
do you do?
She said, I don't want to put my daughter through this, which happens all the time with adults. There are adults that are assaulted, or maybe pictures of them in intimate moments are passed around, and somebody yells, and they say, okay, let's go. You want to go to court? No, I don't want my name released. I don't want to go to court. Let's just drop it. It happens. But, you talk about wanting the sheriff to do something. This state has a rich history of parish sheriffs that would have somebody that wasn't aligned with them or wasn't the proper political party, and they'd say, well, I heard he's messing around with this 14-year-old girl. No truth to it at all. And the sheriff and the deputy would lose his or her job. Mm-hmm. So we have got safeguards in place now to prevent that, particularly in sheriff's departments in this state. And Jason Ard's hands were tied by the Code of Law Enforcement and also by the law. If he doesn't have a complaint, he can do nothing. And I had someone say, well, why didn't he watch this guy a little more closely? That would have been an official act, and he couldn't really do that because he had no reason to do so once there was no official complaint. Now, LSP did investigate, and I had somebody there tell me, same story. Mom, remember the BRPD officer who was operating in good faith, wanted to protect kids, was not biologically related to this child. And the mom, who was, said, no, we don't want to file a complaint.
There you go.
Pretty much it.
Well, whenever these things happen, and people want to know why wasn't the guy caught sooner, and that's what starts with, well, why was he allowed to do this for so long? It's like, because that's how long it took to catch him.
Why was John Paul Funes allowed to take money out of Our Lady of the Lake Foundation to the tune of $800,000 over a period of 3.5 years? Because you get caught when you get caught. Mm-hmm. There was nobody sitting there, and I heard this pap and this drivel, and I think my loyalty and allegiance to Our Lady of the Lake is well known. They saved my life. Mm-hmm. Karen started a very successful career there many, many years ago.
We have business dealings with them on an ongoing basis.
I was very close with the late Sister Linda Constantine and with some of the other nuns. Bob Davidge and I were old friends. So my allegiance to the lake is very, very strong. But they didn't have somebody sitting in the administrative offices going, I wonder how much John Paul got this week. I guess we'll wait another 5 or 6 months before we drop the boom on him. That didn't happen.
No. I think as soon as it came to light, people investigated, and then next thing you know.
Yeah, it actually happened very quickly as soon as it came to light.
An arrest was made. Our time is just about up here. Before we go, we wanted to talk to you about our good friends at Salassi Jewelry and Fine Gifts. They're 239 Range Avenue in Denham Springs.
Yeah, we're going to be out there, by the way, this coming Thursday. It'll be a special edition of the Morning Exiles. We're going to be doing a welcome them as a sponsor. We're going to welcome you to come on out. We're going to have a little something to nibble on, and you'll see what they've got in store for the Christmas season. And we'll talk all about jewelry and all that. It'll be a lot of fun.
Listen, great reason to get out there today. I mean, today.
Yeah, now,
Beautiful
do it
day.
today.
But they've got their fall clearance sale that's going on through the end of business today. And you can get some incredible deals on great gift items and, sock them away for Christmas. They design, they build, they repair. They also buy, sell, and trade jewelry items. And if you need something fixed, I've got to see if Stuart can fix. I've got a bracelet that's broken that I need to get fixed. They do offer financing, and if you need diamond expertise, the Stuart Salassi is a certified GIA diamond graduate. He knows his diamonds.
Well, and one of the asides on that, and I tell people every time I get the opportunity, is if you've got some nice jewelry, you've got diamond jewelry in your home, and you think your homeowner's policy is going to cover it, chances are your limit is 10 grand.
Yep. That's standard for a homeowner's policy. Contents of your home, $10,000.
Yeah. So
I know people that have got $15,000, $20,000 in jewelry alone.
Yeah, you want a rider, and you'd be surprised what your jewelry is worth, particularly if it's something you've had for 10 or 15 years. It's going to get appraised at today's value. So Stuart can do an appraisal that your insurance company will accept, hands down, no problem, and then you go and get your rider. And by the way, these riders don't cost as much as you might think.
No,
But
dollars.
But Stuart, in addition to having a fine jewelry store, can help you safeguard your jewelry should there be an accident or a theft or something, a stone just drops out of a ring. It happens. So visit our friends at Salassi Jewelry and Fine Gifts on Range Avenue in Denham, and we'll remind you again to join us next Thursday.
And we hope you'll join us Tuesday morning. So think about it. We're going to do 1, 2, 3 next week.
3.
Tuesday and Friday morning, and then Thursday afternoon from Salassi Jewelry and Fine Gifts. We hope we will see you there in Denham Springs next Thursday at 2.
Have a lovely weekend. Stay warm.